Lovely Dark and Deep is a brand new 2024 film released theatrically and on VOD in beginning to mid of February. This also hit the festival circuits in 2023, so I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to differentiate 2023 to 2024 films. To me, what makes sense is the first screening of a movie ever should be the official year that it was released. But if a film is premiering in one festival in some city in the world for the first time and isn't available to everybody else till later, it should be classified as being released basically when it's widely available. But I don't know. For all intents and purposes, this is a 2024 film because now is when everybody is pretty much able to see it. Everybody, kind of thing. But I got to see this one streaming, and it had an interesting premise, and it definitely had an interesting opening. I really, really like the cinematography in this film. They really utilized the whole forest scenario and landscapes and sets and everything. I'm not doubting that they certainly used probably blue screen and green screen to make a lot of the forest scenes. Maybe they actually did everything in the forest as well. I'm not exactly sure what happened with the production, but it definitely looked real, and whatever they did, it was very captivating, and in a cinematography manner, it was fantastic. So what we have going on here is we have this brand new park ranger. She's a young girl, and she's starting out, and basically she's, I guess, on her first job. Like she's pretty much just starting out. She has a bunch of mentors. She's looking forward to experiencing this job as a park ranger, and these national parks are known for being, mass and having many people sometimes get lost in them, and you really have to know your smarts, kind of thing, when you're either exploring as a leisure kind of thing or working in them. Either way, you have to know your shit, kind of thing. So that's already scary enough. But this film starts to play into supernatural stuff where she basically goes into the forest, and then while doing her job, she comes across certain people that need help, and then strange things start to happen, and she has a bit of a history. She gets obsessed with one little girl specifically who went missing, and she is pretty focused on finding this little girl, and she has her bosses and everybody kind of giving her instructions, and her leaders, kind of thing, in which she begins to trust very much. But as the film goes on, that trust is kind of lost, and that trust is kind of skewed in a sense because of a lot of unexplainable events that start to happen. Nothing is very grounded in this film too much. It starts to really get into hallucinatory territories and supernatural territories. This film actually plays with a bit of a phenomenon and a bit of an urban legend that actually exists in real life when it comes to national parks, where strange occurrences have been reported and stuff. And I like that idea, and I like how this film uses and utilizes that plot, in a sense, to take the story forward. And I like the idea of this film very much. Unfortunately, this film didn't execute that idea very well to my liking. I really liked the acting in it, and I really loved the creepy scenarios that would happen in this film. There's situations in this film, again, going back to the cinematography, where you have like beautiful landscapes, and you have like a person on camera kind of doing their own thing, but you'll have certain things happening in the background that it's not like you'll blink and you'll miss it. Like, you can see it's there, but it's certainly happening in the distance, and it's not focused on in the sense where the main character is being focused on. So you'll see something happen in the background, and it's kind of, you see it, but the characters on screen don't see it. So it leaves you with that tension, like, you see, oh my god, like, something really creepy is going on, like, behind the characters and stuff like that, and they do that very well. It definitely feels a little bit Blair Witch, and I think a lot of people who will go into this film will definitely see the Blair Witch-ness of it, of course, because it's taking place in a forest, so it's kind of obvious. But in the same way that James Wan will use subtleties when it comes to his style of filmmaking, with things in the background and with just sheer creepiness, not necessarily throwing things on screen and using jump scares, but using subtle eeriness when it comes to building tension on screen. This film utilizes and this film plays with those kind of scares in the same way. I wouldn't say this feels like a James Wan film at all. It definitely doesn't. But it definitely has that same style of building tension that James Wan would bring to his own style of filmmaking. What I didn't like about this film is just that it gets into the nightmarish elements fairly quickly. And that I don't mind, but it stays there. And pretty much the entire film, you really have a hard time differentiating what's real and what's not. And it literally is like watching this girl, this main character, experience a nightmare. And it does feel very nightmarish. Like, it definitely feels like your typical bad dream that you would have. And they brought that to the screen very, very well, but it certainly gets repetitive. It gets extremely confusing. I had a very hard time understanding what was going on because you start to deal with seemingly parallel dimensions because you'll see the same characters appear sometimes at the same time on screen, but in different time scenarios and stuff like that. And other characters will pop up and it'll feel very dreamlike and very nightmarish because sometimes people will literally like teleport, and sometimes the scene will be like switching back and forth between different settings. So it gets very wild with its supernatural content. And some people will love that. Some people will watch this film and absolutely adore that. But to me, I just found it very confusing. And I felt that it did drag a little bit too long. Just because there was not a whole lot of explanation going on. And when it gets to the ending, even, again, it just leaves you with this ambiguous kind of scenario that you're left scratching your head kind of thing. And after coming out of pretty much 45 whole minutes of scratching your head the entire time to leave you with something that's even more head scratching, it's kind of unfulfilling in my opinion. This film also gave me a little bit of the Outwaters vibes, which I loved that film. Like, that film was very experimental. This film is not as experimental as the Outwaters was, but for what the Outwaters was, I really, really enjoyed it. This film is a little bit more tame, but it plays with those really out there ideas when it comes to being supernatural, being hallucinatory. Like, you definitely, it's a trip kind of thing. Like I said, not as much as a trip of the Outwaters, but it's still a trip. But this trip just didn't resonate with me, and I think that's just a personal thing. So basically, I gave this one a 2.5 out of 5. So it's right down the middle. I really liked a lot of aspects about it. I really thought other things just didn't work for me, but that's not taking away from the film. And it was just fine for me. I've had better times, but it's not a horrible experience. So it's definitely spooky when it wants to be. So I can definitely give that as a positive. So it's available to stream right now, and it's playing at select theaters. So I'm sure you can find it somewhere. It's widely available now. So go check it out if it sounds up your alley, and subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.